Stay tuned for Legal Straight Talk.
Is this reality? No, I don't feel okay. I need my kaleidoscope of colors to lead the way. I'm riding in my car and I'm coming on around the bend. It's a chase, this twisted race. I'll be on top again. I'm not gonna let you take me down. It's gonna be the whole 9 yards or nothing.
Hi, I'm Tom Mealy. Welcome to another edition of Legal Straight Talk. You know, last week we had a great guest on the show talking about matrimonial law. It's a very, very, very difficult area. There's so much that has to be thought about, and she made it very clear that sometimes mediation is the best way to go. And I have to tell you, 30 years in the business, I feel that she's absolutely 100% correct. That, you're never going to get everything you're asking for. You should have known that going into the marriage. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Today, we have a special guest with us today, Mike Kaufman. And people, you're in for a show today because he has all the answers to all the questions that you're going to have. And let me just put on my glasses for a minute, and I'm going to read a few of these stats here. Suffolk County Planning Commissioner. All right, does that get your blood boiling? Suffolk County Council on Environmental Quality. I have no idea what that means, but we're going to find out. The County Master Plan Team. These must be the people that plan what we're going to have here in Suffolk County. Got to get into that. This is going to be interesting. Numerous state and local planning groups. Now the state's getting involved. That's going to be interesting. He's an attorney in private practice, corporate business, and land use. Land use. Now that's an interesting one, land use. I can't imagine the last time I've seen vacant land here in Suffolk County other than some of these businesses, these big businesses that go out of business like Pilgrim State and have this mass amount of land that has been gone undeveloped here in Suffolk County since I was a kid. I know that a lot of it changed over to the school, but there's still some of the buildings that still remain. So we're going to ask Attorney Kaufman on what he knows about that, if anything. So with no further ado, because I am dying to get into some of these questions here, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Okay. I got to tell you, I don't know where to start here. Let's go slow because there's a lot here. And there's a lot that the average homeowner has questions about. I know I do as a homeowner. And land development on Long Island, the master plan. Whose master plan? So let's start with Suffolk County Planning Commissioner. What is that all about?
Okay, the Suffolk County Planning Commission is a regional planning group for the county of Suffolk. We sort of coordinate the development, if you will, the private development that goes on among the 10 towns, and we look at it from a regional standpoint.
10 towns.
10 towns.
I'm going to stop you periodically because I want them to know what we're talking about.
Plus
here.
about 3,500 villages.
Okay, so 10 towns. Those 10 towns being whom?
Okay, Huntington, Babylon, Smithtown, Islip, Brookhaven, Riverhead, Southampton, East Hampton, Southold, Shelter Island, and I'm sure there's one in there that I forgot.
All right,
that
so you got the job. So you get the job. All right, so you know all 10. So Suffolk County Planning Commissioner, you plan what is going to happen in each one of these towns and villages.
Well, we sort of react to private business development. That's more of an accurate way of looking at it. Private business runs the county. This is a capitalist country. And they propose projects, and we see basically whether they fit into a master plan or a regional approach to what is going on. and we coordinate with the townships and the villages. I come from a village, for example. We coordinate with those municipal entities, and we basically try and guide them and say, well, what's acceptable from a regional standpoint, what's maybe not so great from a regional standpoint, and we're trying to look at it with different eyes from the very, very hyper-local activities that go on. Now, you'll always see that kind of stuff in the paper, land development here, they want to put in a shopping center here, et cetera. Well, if it's within certain specified areas, the Regional Planning Commission, my group, gets involved, and we look at it with literally a different eye. For example,
A financial eye or a realistic eye?
a realistic eye. I mean, we're looking at about 15 or 20 different categories. A perfect example, there was a project in an unnamed western town where they wanted to put in about 400 senior condominium units on a 30-acre parcel that suddenly became available in the middle of half-acre and 1-acre zoned housing that had already been developed on a road that really was kind of dicey. From a local perspective, it was a nightmare in that it broke the zoning for the area. It was not compatible. It was on a road that couldn't handle the traffic. There were a million problems with it locally. Regionally, it was a great idea. Okay, this western town didn't have enough rental housing, didn't have enough condos. This particular project was a senior housing unit, and the particular town did not have enough senior housing for people who wanted to downsize. So regionally, it was fantastic. Locally, it was a problem because it literally created a lot of problems. We had to look at it
What are the
regionally.
problems that it created? I can't see where something like that would create a problem.
400 units on a 2-lane road that goes nowhere, that's not located near any services, is literally smack dab in the middle of your typical suburban sprawl, and there's nothing around there, no gas stations, no markets, no shopping centers, nothing.
So where would that create the problem?
Overloaded traffic. You literally
On a
have-
road that goes nowhere.
Basically. You
But
would-
those people that are going nowhere on that road are going home.
Yes, well, they're also going to work. They're going out during the day.
You
The
said
traffic
senior.
counts. The seniors, yeah, but they don't. They also drive. Believe it or not.
But do they work? The
Some of them
majority,
still do.
the majority would be no.
But they still have to get out and do their errands. They got to go to the doctors. The road counts don't fall simply because an age group, a particular age
So
group.
if this was a
is in an
4-lane
area.
road going in and out, it would have been passed?
It would have been. Well, the project did end up being passed, albeit reluctantly. My vote was kind of reluctant on that one. If it was 4-lane, it would have been okay. But this was a 2-lane, and it was just going to be overwhelmed
As a
with the other
planning
traffic.
commissioner, would you have made provisions to change it to a 4-lane?
We had certain jurisdictions, that unfortunately was not one of them. If we asked for a traffic study and we asked for alternate routes in and out to be established, but we could not order 4 lanes to come in. That would have been a great solution, but there was just no room for it.
So how did this thing get passed?
Well, the town had basically passed it, and on a recommendation, it comes up to us for our viewpoint, and then it goes back to the town. So the town had said pretty much okay to it. Their planning board had looked at it, comes up to us, and again, we looked at it regionally, and the difference of opinion was regional or local. I actually asked the question, should we look at this regionally? Because it's a great project. Locally, it stank. It passed on a split
But
vote.
you have the local people that live in that area. All those local people are saying, no, I don't want this.
A fair amount of them
But-
actually were okay with it. A fair amount of
Well-
them were not.
Well, let's take 100%. How many were and how many weren't?
I'd say it was about 50-50.
50-50 that
Overall.
agreed that we should or should not have this.
A lot of people thought it was a good idea. A lot of people who showed up at the hearing thought it was a bad idea. And in that case, you
I have
you
never
to take
been
that into
to a
account.
county meeting or a meeting of any even with the local town of Islip where anything ever came out 50-50. I would think that more realistically there would have to be. I would think that if I was a resident, I'd be opposed to it.
Well, the same thing just happened at a hearing about Pilgrim State a couple of days ago. The people in the immediate area were not, from what I understand, very happy with it. But naturally, that comes with construction and the creation of basically a city in the area. But the tradespeople came out, and a lot of other people in the town of Islip seem to be very, very much in favor of this, or so it was
We've been
reported.
looking at those brick buildings for the past 3 decades.
Well, you're gonna get-
it's about time that they come down.
Yeah, but you're also going to get 9,000 apartments over there.
Is
I'm
that
not
what they're
kidding
going to
you.
build?
9,000 apartments. There's a city going in over there. I kid you not on that. High-density housing, relatively tall buildings, very, very close together, some green space. It's supposed to be a walkable community, bikeable community, sort of contained in and of itself, but it's going to be a massive, massive development.
Middle income, low income?
There should be a spread of it. Though I believe, without knowing for sure, that there's going to be some what we call workforce housing in there. I've not seen the documents. I'm just going basically upon what I've seen in the newspaper. It has not come before our commission yet. I anticipate 6 months or a year from now.
Any commercial?
There will be a fair amount of commercial, from what I
There'll be
understand.
commercial and residential. How many acres does Pilgrim have?
I don't know. It's a square mile or two, something like that. So that'd be about maybe 1,000 acres, something like that. It's a huge property. Jerry Wolkoff bought it for $20 million a long time ago.
He's the guy who owns the Islanders.
No.
The Islanders? No,
No,
he's
he's
dealing
not.
with the thing in Nassau County right now.
No, the Coliseum redevelopment.
Coliseum? Is that
That's
him?
Ratner
Oh, okay, right.
and Blumenthal,
Right.
who are suing each other
So
right
he
now.
bought the land for $20 million.
$20 million from the state, and he's going to put in a massive development over the basically lifespan of about 20 or 30 years.
He has probably the potential of tripling his money 10 times over.
Now that's 30 times over.
Now, let me ask you a
Could be.
question. Does the town of Islip have any input in this?
The town of Islip has the ultimate authority over this. The sequences are kind of funny the way they work out. They have a planning board and they have a town board. They have to rezone. They have to do the environmental reviews. A lot of that gets kicked up to us as a regional board, and then we vote on it. And if we're against it, then the town can overrule us with a supermajority of the town board. If they agree with us, then everything's fine and dandy, and they go forth with the project. So we have a review, basically, a regional review, which can be basically vetoed. But we have a fair amount of conditions that go along with this kind of stuff, and the overrule sometimes is, dicey at best. I mean, there really have to be reasons presented for it. They have to be cogent reasons. You just can't basically give something that's, sort of pro forma. You really have to examine and give reasons.
It says here, Suffolk County Council on Environmental Quality.
Well, that's a different ballpark. The Planning Commission deals with private development. The CEQ, the Council on Environmental Quality, I've been on there since 1990. I'm one of the old timers. Is a appointed body of basically experts in certain fields who review municipal, basically county development and law. So any county law that comes down, any county, we, for example, review the budget, among other things, which is not something I like to look at, unfortunately. We look at the budgets. We look at personnel changes. We look at contracts. We look at planning efforts. We look at any county construction.
So the word
dredging.
environmental doesn't mean...
Well, we're doing the environmental reviews. That's really what it boils down to.
environmental, when it says environmental quality, it's kind of misleading in a way. The word environmental, when I think of the word environmental, and I think a lot of our viewers think of the word, we think of toxic type issues.
Not
where-
everything's toxic, fortunately.
Granted, we think of, landfills. Now, does that fall into that category?
No, not if it's town-based. We're dealing with the county exclusively, but the county's a couple $billion-dollar corporation, and it's got I mean, we govern parks, or we review activities within parks. We're also the county's historic trust. We've got 20 or 30 mansions within our ambit of jurisdiction. I mean, our environmental reviews are very, very broad-ranging. We enforce and deal with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. That's where the Q comes in. And we basically are advisors to the legislature, though we also have line authority in that we prepare any environmental impact statements for the county. And I have to say that we do them pretty well. We've never lost one.
Okay, very interesting. This one I love. County Master Plan Team. Again, that's probably going back to the planning commissioner on how you plan. You're part of that team that plans basically the future of Suffolk County.
Yeah, I have here something that matches my tie. This
It's
is
very colorful as well.
Yes.
All right, can we, I don't know if we can get a shot on this. This here is the Suffolk County Master Plan all the way up to 2000, that's good, Jerry, 2035. 2035.
20 years.
That's 20 years from now. I'm going to be 62. All right, I'll be around. No, I'm kidding. So this is the framework for the future summary of Suffolk County between now and 2035. Let's talk about it.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little speech for a second. This is a speech I give when dealing with it. Look, the county is at a turning point. The post-war wave and development of suburbia that started after World War II is basically changing. The pattern of low-density residential, what we call suburban sprawl, low-density residential and scattered commercial nodes needs help to survive. Our downtowns are crippled. The Depression has really wrecked a lot of the housing markets. They've wrecked the downtowns. Development, to all intents and purposes, the go-go years of the 1990s and the 2000s has basically stopped dead. Building permits are down. Economic activity of a vital industry is down. So the residential areas of development and the commercial nodes, they basically need help to survive. And there are a lot of planning techniques that are embodied in this plan that you can utilize to try and sort of promote and spur economic activity and also stabilize neighborhoods.
You want my opinion on why it's down?
Why?
Because the county and the state imply too much pressure on us to put a small business in. And that's one of the reasons it's down. I know some friends of mine that tried to open up a business in Bayshore. They ran through so many hoops to get this thing approved that they finally said, you know what, we're not going to do it anymore. You know, personally, I want to, listen, I'm all for keeping our community structured. I'm all for that. But, you know, to me, I strongly feel that it's sometimes it's not what you have or what you can present. I'm going to give an example. For example, I had a horse, and I wanted this horse in my backyard in West Islip. And West Islip was not zoned to have a horse. Even though I have just a few feet shy of a half acre, it says in town of Islip that you can have 2 horses per half acre. So I went up in front of the board.
Yes, for a variance.
And I asked for the variance because I had 1 horse. And they said, well, okay, you could have 1 horse. All right, you're short, you know, it makes sense. You can have 1 horse. We'll give you 1 horse, but you can't have 2 because you don't have the full half acre. I get the variance. I build this incredible paddock in my backyard. They won't let me have a barn. I said, where did you want me to keep the horse? In the bedroom? So
Living room, actually.
they said to me, well, your shed is too close to the fence. You have to move it 4 feet. And I said, but why is my shed, you know, it's a foot off the fence, but yet my neighbor has the same size shed, and that's right next to the fence. You know what they told me? Because yours is a barn.
Well,
These
Tom-
are my problems with this.
Tom,
It
I
seems like there's always a problem when we try to go to develop Suffolk County and we try to bring something into it like a business. The town runs us through hoops.
Let me give you a couple of answers, and it's going to be basically point counterpoint, just like they used to do on Saturday Night Live, okay, with Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin. Don't worry, I won't call you what Dan Aykroyd.
Go ahead, I was
said.
just waiting.
Okay, but there is really 2 arguments to it. First argument is, yeah, we need business, okay, no doubt about that. But at the same time, through the years, people have learned, or the government has learned, that you have to have certain rules out there to prevent catastrophes. Look at how this island has developed. There's so many mistakes, so many problems, and then people, frankly, have just ignored the rules and just gone crazy. My next door neighbor, for example, I wrote a bunch of tree laws in my little village to try and preserve the rural ambiance of the place. My neighbor cut down all the trees. He got fined for it, but not enough to make up for what he did. He literally destroyed an old-growth forest. That was a local landmark cited in all the old local books and things like that. He just devastated it because he didn't like trees. Why did he move in? He came from Dix Hills. Sorry, Dix Hills. He came from Dix Hills, and he wanted to have clear space. I'm sorry, my village is a wooded village. So anyway, the rules are in place for a reason. With businesses and things like that, with health regulations, etc., you have to have that stuff, and they're pretty much written in stone because we know the problems that happen. There's a restaurant in Smithtown, which is my hometown, and the restaurant wanted to do certain things. They were going to produce basically too much grease for the basically septic systems to handle. They tried heaven and earth saying that, oh, they were going to have a 50-seat restaurant and the regulations only allowed 45. You go beyond 45, you're suddenly overloading the area in terms of the septic recharge, and you're going to start polluting. That's
get
the kind
that.
of problem.
I understand that.
Variances are a different thing with houses and things like that. I can tell you, I've been approached as an attorney a number of times by people who put up illegal structures, or else they want to put up an illegal structure, and the rules be damned. That's one point.
Well, why are the rules broken? And I tell you what bothers me about this.
Well,
And
that's
I'm
what
going to
variances
revert
are
back.
for.
I'm going to
Okay.
I'm going to revert back to the horse again. Okay, because when I wanted that horse in there, and they told me that they granted it, I had a complainer on my block who worked for the town of Islip, and I had gone over to his house. I said, "Listen, what is your problem? Why are you calling the town up?" And he told me a little story about somebody who wanted a horse, and it was shot down in Sayville because the person next door was related to somebody on the board.
I can't deny that happens, Tom.
But
I can't deny it happens.
is that wrong?
Yeah,
So how
it shouldn't happen.
But how do see what you're doing here? What
Well,
I'm seeing here is this is good stuff. This is really good stuff. If it remains good stuff.
But remember one thing: we're a county. We don't have the fundamental land use jurisdiction that the towns do. We are more dealing with it in a regional sense, and we're not specifically dealing with the actual zoning. Houses here and quarter acre here and 10 feet variances there, et cetera. We're dealing with totally different themes on this master plan. I'll read them off. We're trying to adapt to climate change. We're trying to promote better transit linkages. We're trying to promote downtown redevelopment, better housing options. Okay, not just rich houses. We're trying to promote workforce housing, and so the middle class can stay here. And rentals. For example, a lot of our parents, when they came to the island, rented. Nowadays, people say rentals, and half the community flips out. In my community, they started saying gangs
But
were
how
going to
can
come.
how can they do that if they keep the taxes the way they are?
That's a whole different story.
But you see, but it
My
all
taxes
fits in.
I understand that. My particular situation, 2/3 of my taxes are school taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pricing me out. Now, we're also dealing with wastewater treatment. If you read the papers, we're polluting our waters. We're also trying to pull together employment and job clusters, trying to connect them together. You look at Silicon Valley, you look at Route 128, you look at outside of Washington, D.C., those are the premier tech centers. They're all connected together. They exist outside of middle-class neighborhoods on main arterials. So you have your housing in one place. The businesses basically, well, Westchester also, on these main arterial roads, and they're connected together. There's some sort of a synergy that occurs when you have the housing and you have the tech jobs. Something happens. You see it in San Jose, you see it in Boston, which was the original Silicon Valley, et cetera. We're trying to promote exactly that kind of thing. So we're dealing with it in
I like
broad
what you're
brush
trying
strokes.
to do. It's just that I hope it comes too.
Well-
because this is a wonderful thing, and I like Long Island. I want to live here for the rest of my life. But I just hope that everything that you guys are doing, that it comes to
Well,
be, because it would be a beautiful world. You're right.
We're trying. We know the mistakes that were made in the past. We have a pretty good idea of what is needed in the future, and this is the kind of plan.
But are there mistakes made because of the people that are on the boards?
Hopefully not on mine.
Well, hopefully not. But are the mistakes made by some of these people that are on the board?
yeah, at local government levels, things happen. I'm not going to deny that, and it's heretical to say it. It does happen. This is just the nature of politics. This is the nature of government. This is what variances are for. This is what drives people crazy. It happened with me. My next door neighbor broke every rule that I wrote for my little
chopped down the
village.
trees.
Okay, it happens.
Look at Bayshore. Bayshore is becoming alive again. 10, 15 years ago, I used to drive. I know I want to drive down Main Street. Everything was boarded up. It looked like
You look
a mess.
at Patchogue.
Patchogue is beautiful.
Patchogue is. I just gave an award to them recently. Patchogue is the poster child for how you do it.
Yeah.
Paul Pontieri was able to charm money from out of nowhere, and he was able to basically relax the zoning rules, and he got development in there. He got housing in there. He got a vibrant downtown. He redeveloped that downtown. He's dealing with the wastewater issues, et cetera. The only thing he forgot was parking, which is a nightmare suddenly. So
All right.
So that's a
You know
signal
what,
of success.
we gotta work on it.
That's a signal of success. They're the poster child for how to do it. Bayshore's trying to do that. Smithtown wants to try and do that. Huntington,
Babylon is gorgeous.
Babylon's trying.
Huntington is cool.
Riverhead on the walk over there is
Yeah.
perfect for
Yeah.
that. They're trying to come back. Unfortunately,
But my
Riverhead's a
worry
little
is
too
that
far
every
east.
single time you try to make a plan like this, somebody's got their hand out. That makes it impossible to make it last. And that becomes my issue with that.
Well, it's not exactly having their hand out. Things sometimes get distorted. Okay.
It's another word for having their. See me. I'm on the other side of the fence. I think when you put together a plan like you're putting together here, which is really going to bring Long Island, back to the forefront, somebody on this side of the fence is always trying to figure out a way, well, how can I compensate off of this? In what capacity? And that's what kills it. You have a beautiful plan here. Trust me, I mean, I'm right. There's people out there that are in local government that saying, well, how am I going to benefit by this? And it bothers me. That's what bothers me.
Stuff happens. That's really my only answer to it. All I can say is I hope that I'm on the better side of things.
I hope so,
and I'm
too,
trying
because
to
it
guide
sure
what
seems
is
that
occurring.
way.
I'm trying to guide what is occurring as part of the commission.
We have a few minutes, and I got to tell you, I got to have you back because I have a million questions here.
I may not answer all of them.
That's fine.
I'll take the 5th and the 21st Amendment.
You're an attorney in private practice, corporate business, land use. Explain what that means.
Well, when I first got out of law school, and yes, I did graduate, I started off as a mortgage attorney for working with Citibank. And I ended up getting into land use, land use zoning, variances, things like that. And then I sort of, through the years, I established myself a little bit and built up a nice resume. And I eventually got hired as a corporate attorney for a very large corporation. I was their primary outside counsel. I functioned as their general counsel. The company was located in Huntington, and it was a credit card processing company and very, very large. And I ended up with a national practice. And I left there a couple of years ago, and now I'm just general civil practice.
And if people wanted to get a hold of you?
Okay, best way is my cell phone, 631-579-6792, but don't tell anybody.
I promise. We've got a few seconds here. Listen, I am all
It's nicely bound. You got to follow it.
I would love to take this home and read it. If you have, can I have this one? Is it going to cost me?
Big time. It's going to cost you so seriously. We're going to withdraw the variance. You're going to have a half a horse on your property.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I had to give a horse away because the guy behind me had such a schnozzle that he could smell this horse, but yet the people 50 feet away couldn't. He was 250 feet away. So he gave me such a hassle that I had to give the horse away. What can I say?
We got a lot of nice pictures in there. A lot of nice pictures in there.
But, listen, at the end of the day, what I think your committees and all the committees that you're associated with here on Long Island, what I think you're doing is you're bringing Long Island back to life, and I commend you for it. My issues are, I just hope that what's in here for the next 20 years comes to be, and I hope that nobody destroys it, because for every good thing, people find a way to make it bad. Pilgrim State has been an empty lot for what, 30 years now?
Tom, I understand your frustrations, and again, that's more at the local level. We're at the regional level.
I got you.
And we're trying to sort of coordinate a lot of those town activities to try and, again, avoid the mistakes of the past and try and chart a way to the future. Okay? And we've got the examples out there, and that's what this thing is trying to do.
Well, now,
put it that way. I would anticipate within the next 2 months.
It'll be online. And how do they see it online? Suffolk County?
Suffolk County website, and you just look for the master plan.
The master plan. All right, so that's it. Suffolk County master plan for the next 20 years will be online coming up within the next
2 months, hopefully.
2 months, and you'll get an idea. Now, if people see something in here and they want to voice their opinions,
they can go to the legislature and basically write a letter or make an appearance and tell the legislature what they think.
And where are the meetings usually?
Hauppauge and sometimes Riverhead. That's a public forum. That's your elected officials at work.
All right. Thank you once again for tuning into Legal Straight Talk with our guest, Mike Kaufman. And we're going to have Mike back because I still have a tremendous amount of questions that I need to ask, and I think that you folks out there need to hear. So we'll be back next week with another edition of Legal Straight Talk. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Jerry Parisi. Join Tom Neely and Tommy Marr right here on Cablevision Channel 20 each week for an interesting episode of The Long Island View.